The 9th episode of Bleach's 1000-Year Blood War arc is titled The Drop, and it continues with Ichigo's healing at Korinji's palace, and then he visits Kiryu Hikifune along with Renji. In addition to this, during this episode we have the revelation that Shunsui has been appointed as the new head captain, and with his first order he has assigned Unohana to teach Kenpachi swordsmanship. Episode 9 covers material between chapters 520 to 524. Now while it seems like this is 5 chapters of material adapted into this episode, there are however some major changes made to the sequence of events and how they are told within the anime, as it differs a lot from the manga. These changes result in roughly 1.5 chapters worth of material not being adapted into this week's episode, and this is so that they could jump forward and begin Unohana's battle against Kenpachi a little bit ahead of time. So I'm going to talk about this more in detail later on in the video, but for now let's begin my comparison of episode 9 of the 1000-Year Blood War arc, which roughly adapts about 3.5 chapters of manga material into this episode. Now as always, I'm going to refrain from talking about scenes which are one-to-one adapted from the manga, but in all honesty episode 9 features a lot of one-to-one adaptations, but they're given so much more breathing room in comparison to other episodes that we have had. Pieces of dialogue linger on the screen for a bit longer than usual, you spend more time dwelling with the emotions of characters, and things are just slowed down a lot. Now having said this, I will also be covering anything that's been cut, changed and added into the anime. So we begin by discussing the scene that happens before the intro song, as the anime adapts roughly the first 3 pages of chapter 520, where we see Nanao trying to get the attention of Shunsui, who has just learnt that the Central 46 have appointed him as the new head captain, as he's going to be filling the position of the late head captain Yamamoto as the leader of the Gotei 13. Now of course he doesn't appear to be too impressed by this, as Shunsui is the type of character to not want to get too involved, as he's very laid back and kind of lazy. After the intro song we cut to Ichigo at Korinji's palace as he is forced under the water for about 100 seconds. For the most part, the comedic moments between Ichigo and Korinji remain intact, aside from a line that's cut from the anime after Korinji calls out to his subordinates. In the manga he tells them to hold him down tight this time. Now this line is removed from the anime, and additionally a small panel of Ichigo struggling against his 2 subordinates is also streamlined within the anime, as it goes on a little bit longer in the manga. Just before Korinji punches Renji, the scene is slightly prolonged within the anime, as we see him walk towards Renji, who is seen to be trembling. Now this is further emphasized in the anime, as it highlights that he hasn't completely healed, but Renji doesn't want to be left behind while Ichigo goes on to progress into the next palace. Following this, Shunsui's meeting with the Central 46, where he appoints himself with 2 lieutenants and reveals that Unohana will teach Kenpachi Zanjutsu, is pretty much one-to-one adapted from the manga, and the anime adapts all the way up until the end of chapter 520 after Unohana is revealed to be the first Kenpachi. After Ichigo and Renji land within Kiryu Hikifune's palace, a comedic scene is removed from the anime where Renji asks how long Kon has been following them. Ichigo says that he must have hidden within his clothes on the way to the Soul King's palace, and he further goes on to insult Kon by saying that he must have been excited about going to a hot spring, but then only to be disappointed when he had seen all of the muscular guys there. So this is the reason why he had remained hidden within Ichigo's clothes. Now the anime removes this and it just transitions into Kiryu introducing herself to the 2 of them. When Ichigo and Renji start to eat, there is an anime only scene of them eating without any dialogue, and this replaces a text only manga panel as they admit that they were starving and they should start to dig in. After Hikifune explains to them that she uses up all of her spiritual pressure when cooking, and as a result of it she loses a lot of weight, a line following this is cut from the anime. In the manga, she adds to her explanation by saying that she has to remain fat in order to cook, otherwise her body won't be able to hold up with her cooking. Now in the manga, after Ichigo and Renji are fired towards Nimaya's palace, we see them arrive in the next chapter, but the entirety of chapter 522 and the first half of chapter 523 are not adapted into episode 9 of the anime. All of these scenes that introduce Uetsu Nimaya and Ichigo and Renji beginning their training with the Asuchi are held back so that we can just cut straight to Muken, where we begin Kenpachi vs Unohana, which starts at the midway point in chapter 523. The anime does an excellent job of setting the atmosphere of Muken here by building upon some of the manga panels we have, and I have to comment on how well the anime adapts the remaining material of this chapter. Specific scenes are allowed to linger, there is a a sense of tension, and the anime adapts the manga one-to-one, but it does so perfectly. The animation, voice acting, and stunning visuals, which introduce us to one of the best battles in the series between two legendary captains. Chapter 523 concludes after Shunsui delivers a monologue about Unohana Yachiro, and how he was aware that her battle against Kinpachi would be a fight to the death. The beginning of chapter 524 is extended slightly, as we see Isane reading a letter left behind by Unohana and Yachiro picking up Kinpachi's eye patch. Now these two lieutenants' emotions are further emphasized within the anime as we cut back and forth with anime only footage of Kinpachi battling Unohana during the lieutenant's emotional reaction here. Shunsui's words from earlier echo in our mind that there will only be one survivor, as the anime plays upon this narrative with some epic music by Sagisu, and the lieutenants having a heartfelt reaction. Now this was definitely one of my favorite moments of this episode, and the anime really did the manga justice here. Now for the remainder of chapter 524, the anime faithfully adapts the material from the manga once again, and it really is taking its time with each scene. There was a perfect balance of pacing between the dialogue scenes and the action scenes. And episode 9 concludes with Unohana admitting that the flaw Kinpachi had placed upon himself is because of a sin that she had committed, and this adapts material all the way up until the end of chapter 524. Now the battle between Kinpachi and Unohana lasts for a further 2.5 chapters as it concludes midway through chapter 527, and with episode 10 being titled The Battle, there is every chance that we may have the entire episode centered around their fight. Now if this is the case, then it would mean that we would have an additional 2 or 3 chapters worth of material adapted into the episode. Now I would love for this to be the case and for episode 10 just to feature their fight, but realistically speaking, we may have their fight for the first half of the episode, and with the second half adapting the cut material from this episode where we are introduced to Nemaya's palace and Renji and Ichigo beginning their training. Now episode 9 again features the slowest pacing out of any of these episodes we've had thus far, having only really adapted 3.5 chapters with a small amount of additions and cuts in terms of the material that was adapted. Episode 9 was very faithful to the manga, but what do you expect when it adapts such little content from the actual source material? Despite this, it was a breath of fresh air to have the pacing slowed down considerably, as we get all of the key details within the manga accurately conveyed in the anime. Information about Kiryu Hikifune's food, Shunsui adjusting into his new role, and most importantly, we get adequate time with Unohana and Kinpachi. The early portion of their battle introduces us to their long-standing history, as well as teasing us for the next episode where their battle will continue and hopefully conclude. I do pray that episode 10 reveals to us more information about their backstory, as well as the sin that Unohana was referring to. All in all, I'm really glad that they saved all of the scenes from Nemaya's palace for later, as the pacing has purposefully been rearranged so as to not distract us from this major battle between the two Kinpachis. Hopefully next week's episode titled The Battle will be one to really look forward to, but until then, please continue the discussion in the comments. Let me know what were your thoughts about episode 9 of the 1000-Year Blood War arc. Did you enjoy seeing Kinpachi battle against Unohana? Did you like seeing Shunsui become the new head captain? And what were your thoughts about Kiryu Hikifune? I can't wait to read all of your comments, and lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this manga comparison video, and I can't wait to see you in my next Bleach Explained video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.